r/TalesFromRetail, episode 14. Sorry but FedEx already left, but hold on one second. I work at a company that's rather large in the Honda/Acura aftermarket community. We hold a few world records and sell a lot of parts for both street use and drag racing, on a racetrack, use. Over the last 3 days I've been working closely with the customer trying to verify his order as my system detected the address he was trying to ship to did not match the actual billing address of the card he was using, and therefore we could not ship out his order, Marizo, to protect the company from a fraudulent order. I started to inform him that with the information he just provided, I was finally able to verify his order, and was that we would be able to get it shipped tomorrow, as FedEx has already left. In the midst of me saying this, I looked up, saw the FedEx truck barely pulling out of the parking lot, and just distracted by flying out of my seat, running out the door, and chasing down the truck with my headset on. Truck driver heard me yelling, stopped, and let me get the package shipped out. I told the customer I was able to stop FedEx, and he could hear me gasping for air as I just had become super winded, and thanked me over and over, and said that nobody had ever gone out of their way for him to just get their parts a day earlier. Customer called me today, day of posting, not day of the event, to express his gratitude towards me. Such a feel-good moment. Edit. Customer thanked me on my Facebook post and I just found out he left a review about me on our Google reviews. I'll leave my number and he can call me. I'm going about my day when a man with a return comes up to the front of my line. He has a receipt, but he doesn't seem to understand when I tell him that we do not process alcohol returns. All sales are final. We do not even exchange alcohol, unless somehow the bottle gets broken before it leaves the store or some other kind of circumstance like that. This man brought in a half-empty bottle of wine trying to get a full refund. The bottle of wine originally was a cheap $12 bottle, and he had purchased it on clearance for $2.97. He claims the wine turned to vinegar, and he wants his full refund. I explained to him that it was on clearance for a reason, and we do not process returns for alcohol. All sales are final on alcohol, and he refuses to accept that, and he wants to speak to somebody higher than me to get his $12. I show him on the receipt how he only paid $2.97. Therefore, he would only get that back including sales tax, but we don't return or exchange alcohol, so he will not be able to return the bottle. He's yelling and getting angry about how every wine store returns bad wine, and shame on me for selling bad wine. It tastes like pure vinegar and it's undrinkable. I tell him we are not a wine store and we have a return policy laid out on the counter for customers to refer to if they had any questions, but he was set on berating me for not accepting his half-empty bottle and demanded to speak to my store manager. I explained to him that our store manager will be in the next day if he wanted to give him a call, so he demands I take his name and number instead, so that way my store manager can call him. He left the bottle and the receipt, and my store manager did call him the next day and told him to come get his $3 back. It's been 4 weeks and he never came in to get his $3. That's not what prepay means. A few days ago at the gas station I work at, I was up at the registers trying to work through a line of people when a customer came in and stood behind the person checking out. While the current customer was sliding his card, I looked up, preparing to let him know that there was a line that he had skipped, and he said I prepaid for gas on #16 but it shut off on me. I looked at #16 and there was no prepay, so I figured it must have refunded back to his card, so I let him know I would help him next, so he could be back on his way. And GT, me, you used a card right? You probably accidentally hung it back up, and it refunded to the card, so I'll just have to ring you up again. And GT, see, I didn't pay inside, I prepaid outside by swiping my card. And GT, me, oh so you didn't prepay, you were just paying outside. And GT, see, yeah, I prepaid outside by swiping my card, it said it was fine, then when I went to pump gas it cancelled the transaction. And GT, me, oh well in that case you would just need to re-swipe your card outside. And GT, see, but I already prepaid for gas, won't that charge me twice? And GT, me, no, you never prepaid. You were paying outside on your card, and you got no gas, so nothing would have been taken off your card. The first transaction basically never happened in GTC. Well, I don't know why it would have cancelled on me like that. Your pump must be broken, and you should go put a sign on it. Internally, I very much doubt there's anything wrong with the pump. It was mostly likely human error or maybe a one-off glitch which is unlikely to repeat itself in GT. I'll go check out the pump once we get this line down. Do you need anything else? And GTC. Yeah, I want my gas, and I want you to go put a sign on your defective pump. And GT. Sir, I will go look at the pump later. Do you want to prepay for gas here or pay outside? You can pull up to a different pump if you want in GTC. I already prepaid. I want the gas that I paid for in GT. So you haven't paid anything yet. There would have been no charge for the first transaction because no gas was pumped. Now do you want to prepay here or pay outside? And GTC. I'll go prepay outside, but if it doesn't work again, I'm never doing business here again. The next customer came up to my register and asked what the other guy's problem was. I just let out an exasperated sigh and said honestly, I have no idea. He thought he was being funny. Background: I work at a warehouse store that requires a membership. We check receipts at the front door to limit shrink and theft due to the large items we sell. This is in the terms of the membership that everyone agrees to. Tonight I was covering the front door while the woman scheduled there was on break. I'm somewhat new to this position, even though I've been at the store for 2 years. Tonight we had a bad thunderstorm, so the store wasn't too busy, but I'm standing there when a guy and his wife walk up. They almost walk right by me and GT. Excuse me, do you have your receipt? And GT. Guy. No. And GT. I apologize, but I have to check your receipt before you leave. And GT. Guy. Well, I'm offended by that. More awkward silence. And GT. Guy. I'm gonna need to speak to your manager. I should note he said all of this completely seriously, stone-faced. I reach for my two-way radio and GT. Sure, it'll just be a moment. Into the radio. I was going to say mod to the front door, please, but I get cut off and GT. Wife. Oh, just stop busting his balls. The guy laughs and pulls his receipt out of his pocket. He was trying to make a joke the whole time. It wasn't funny and wasted my time and made a line form at the front door that I had to deal with when they left. The curse of millions or paradise lost. So this happened around 10 years ago now. I had taken on the job as parts manager for a large RV dealer. Normally I didn't interact with the public much, aside from at the retail storefront the dealership kept. Sometimes I would walk them through various options in satellites or appliances, but otherwise, that was sales depth business. I was in the storefront, checking inventory on LED bulbs, when a fellow walks in. Mid to late 40s, more than a bit overweight, wearing cute off-chain shorts and a t-shirt and a backpack. Comes in with a smile on his face and I say hello. He's a real nice guy. I can't remember his name, so I'll call him Jim. Jim introduces himself to me and shake my hand and starts asking me about various things we sell. I gather that he is pretty new to the whole RV world. I take the next 20 minutes or so showing Jim the various things you need to maintain 1. The freshwater tank and grey water chemicals, the black water hoses, drains, pumps etc. How to store them for the winter, and what kind of maintenance schedules to expect. After he's done asking questions, he gets real quiet and looks around, and motions me back towards my desk. Jim, I really want this to remain between us, but I feel like I can trust you. What's up, Jim? Jim, I would like you to recommend me one of these things to buy and introduce me to a salesman. I've just hit the lottery and I have cash with me and I'm ready to buy now. I just wanted to find someone honest. He pulls out his bag and opens it. Yup. That's a lot of cash. Jim hit the CA lotto. Not a super huge one, but after taxes, he had a cool $12 million to his name. Jim was married, and I met his wife who I'll call June. June was about 5 feet 4, also a bit overweight, and about as sweet as candy. No kids, so they decided this was the perfect time to buy an RV, travel the country, and see the sights. Jim was a sanitation worker, June was a teacher I believe. Real nice folks, but couldn't have kids, and never had much money. I told them what to expect, and what to look for in an RV, and then I introduced Jim to the owner's brother, who worked sales and I always respected. They left and I began ordering in parts, to upgrade their chosen vehicle. Hardwood, radiant floor heating, very nice plasma screens, amazing bed cabinetry. It was about a 2-week job to refit. Jim and June looked through their new unit with beaming smiles. We shook hands one last time, and they drove away into the sunset. Off to their new adventure. Now, RVs come with service plans, just like cars. They are scheduled for regular intervals at the time of purchase. I saw Jim and June one more time, before I left the dealer. It was for, I want to say their 1-year appointment. Might have only been 6 months. I didn't even recognize him when he came in. He weighed maybe 150 pounds, gaunt, sickly looking. His wife was the same. The RV. Obliterated. Missing chunks of hardwood, gouges everywhere, cabinet doors missing, broken door rails, appliances smashed, oh, and the cocaine and methamphetamine left around was a nice touch. You don't even want to know what came out of those tanks. Needless to say, most of this wasn't going to be covered under warranty. Jim and June were no longer nice people to deal with. They were rude, snappy, and angry. Constantly shouting at each other as well. Oh, did I mention they were also bankrupt now, and couldn't afford the repairs? I wasn't really involved much when they came back, but the RV told the tale. They never made it past Vegas. Fell into gambling and drugs and lost everything, even the house they owned, before buying the RV. They climbed into their trashed vehicle and drove it away, and that was the last I saw of them. No idea what became of them, and I left shortly after that. I don't know what happened to those people. But if it could happen to them, customer doesn't understand how returns work. This didn't happen to me, but it happened to my manager about 2 years ago. The store I work in doesn't have a set time for returns, and we almost always require the customer's receipt when doing a return. We also, unsurprisingly, need the item. This story takes place in either August or September of 2017. It was pretty slow this day, so I was able to hear the whole thing happen. A woman comes in and asks for a return. I call my manager out, and she goes to the return counter. Once there, she presented my manager with her receipt. My manager looked at it and noticed that it was all food. And that the transaction took place in October 2016. Manager, ma'am, what is it you want to return? Customer, the whole thing. My manager just stared at the lady. Do you have the items with you? C, no, we ate them. Ma'am, I can't do a refund on items that have already been consumed and have been purchased almost a year ago. The customer lost her mind. She starts screaming about how the food wasn't good and how since we didn't have a time limit on refunds, she should be able to get her money back. And how it wasn't her fault it took her so long to get the refund because she lived out of town. She then threatened to call the police if my manager didn't give her the refund. My manager ended up caving in and giving her the money back. By the time she agreed, most of the employees had gathered to see what was going on. We all literally went no when she opened the drawer. As the lady walked out, she was saying how we lost a paying customer. Lady tries to hold up my line. First time posting a story on desktop. So. This was a couple years ago, but it's getting close to the time where I'm going to be working at this place again, so I figure I might as well share before new pleasant memories are made. This seasonal store is my first and only introduction to the retail industry, sad as that is, and I do like it any other time besides when things are chaotic and out of hand. Anyways, it's a particular strain of Halloween store, and as it got closer to the holiday, the rushes that I dealt with were practically every shift, and I almost got used to it, even if it was my first retail job. I had not known about Karen types before this, and by God I wish it remained that way. I'm simply standing at my register, checking people out as fast as I can while remaining friendly. The line is weaving through the maze of merchandise, and as with any store we are understaffed, and I'm the only cashier up front. Manager is in the fitting rooms. I have no way to contact her, no radios, so I'm tragically effed if anything goes pear-shaped. And so it did. Here comes Karen, hands full of costumes for her gremlins which she did not have with her. I ring her up. Everything is going good. She's being polite, actually. The interaction begins. Me, good afternoon ma'am. I hope you found everything you were looking for. Karen, hi, and yes I did. Do you know if you any coupons available? Me, I'm sorry, I don't know if we do. You can look on the website or in your email if you're signed up. Karen, already on her phone. I don't know, I can't connect to the internet right now. It's not a big deal. Liar. Me, well just let me know. I get through her entire $200+ order and happily send her on her way, so I can get through the rest of the line in my shift, and of course I, ignorant, think I did good, and that she won't come back. I'm very wrong. I get through a couple more people before this lady storms back into the store and pushes into the front of the line, stopping me from asking another person to come up. Karen, I found a coupon online. I want you to void all this and let me buy it with the coupon that you didn't tell me about. Me, flustered and confused, miss I can't do that, I'm a sales associate and my manager is too busy to come up here. I can only ask you to hold on until she can come up. Karen, no. I'm staying here until you do something about it. I look at her and to the irritated and similarly confused people in line behind her. I try to get through at least another person. It's really goddamn awkward because that is in fact what she's doing. Standing there giving me a dirty look. Again, I can't call my manager and I sure as heck can't leave the busy counter. Finally one of my other associates come up, probably to work on the other register, and I stop her and ask if she can get the manager or at least tell her what's happening. She says that the manager is really busy but she'll try. Karen finally huffed and stepped off a little so I could keep doing my job. My manager eventually came up to I guess refund/return everything for Karen, and she was out of my hair. The rest of the day is unimportant. Beyond cleanup killed me because rushes suck and amp. #X200B. Apparently Karen said that I was extremely rude and that I should be written up or something. My manager was cool and just asked for my side and believed me when I said I wasn't. I have a couple shorter stories from that same store *** TLDR. Karen is angry that I have no idea what coupons are available and demands I void everything out so she can use the one she found while holding up my line. A customer's broken item from another store. I worked in a costume jewelry store. We sold relatively cheap jewelry people would buy for formals or weddings. We have a small repair kit at work with some pliers. It has a bunch of O-rings and spare clasps for jewelry. One day a customer came into my store with his family and asked me if we sold O-rings. He wanted to fix his bracelet he purchased from another store. I offered to fix it and he didn't want me to do it, so I put a couple of O-rings in a tiny resealable bag and gave it to him. He asked for the cost and I told him it's free. Our repair kit had over 100 of these cheap little O-rings. I told him that if he lost the ones I gave him, to come back in and I'd give him some more considering they are quite small. He came back in later in the afternoon and I thought that maybe he would need some more O-rings. Instead, him and his family gave me a box of expensive chocolates expressing how thankful they were and how much they struggled finding the O-rings until they came into my store. They praised my customer service and were the kindest souls. I was in absolute shock because I didn't feel like it was deserved. This will always stick with me. They absolutely made my year with it. I couldn't wipe the massive grin off my face. Yeah, nah, that's not gonna fly legally. So this happened to me while I worked at a gas station. This girl comes into work, probably 18 or 19, maybe younger, I don't know, and she wants to buy cigarettes again. She looked about 18 or 19, so by law I would have to ask for identification. So she claims to have forgotten it wherever, and then grabbed her phone, in which, since there was a little bit of a line, dumbfounded me with the lack of awareness from this girl. Guess what she does? She insists on using her Facebook to pass for the legal age. I mustered up the biggest straight face someone could find in this situation and said, "Miss, I'm not legally able to accept that as a form of identification," and denied her the cigarettes. She got into a huff with me, but I stood my ground until she walked away, and once she was no longer in hearing distance, I busted out laughing, and the customers who were around her during her little act busted out laughing. My boss, who wasn't in the store at the time, later caught wind of the whole thing on my behalf, was in disbelief, and laughed her head off. TL, Doctor, a customer used Facebook to attempt illegal form of identification for purchasing tobacco products. Just breathe. So way back, when I was 15 years old, I was working at a dollar store part-time during school. This was a pretty big dollar store, part of a chain. They didn't accept debit back then, nor did they have price tags on anything. There were signs everywhere indicating that every item is $1 or less. Any items less than $1 were marked on the shelf, X. $2/$1. The downside to this as an employee was that we were just expected to know. The shelves had new stock weekly, but we eventually got the knack of what stock would be $1 and what would be cheaper. It wasn't flawless, but it was a minimum wage job. It was a busy Saturday. I was the backup cashier. The main cashier was on their lunch break, and we got so slammed I had to call the third backup cashier. We had 2 solid lines going, and one customer slowing everything down with a massive purchase that eventually came out to $160. The customer was 40-something woman. I counted up all of the items as fast and as thoroughly as possible. Finally the customer was cashed out and moved on. A couple minutes later the customer comes back ready for a fight. Customer, excuse me. You overcharged me. Me, oh I'm so sorry about that customer, yeah. These 2 items here are 2 for $1. You owe me $1. At this I couldn't cash out any more customers. She was standing in front of everyone. I couldn't just open the till and toss a buck her way, I had to call a supervisor. So I did. We were waiting there, awkwardly. Both the customer and I were clearly getting dirty looks from the line of people that were being held up while we were waiting for the supervisor. So, in order to save face she decides to say loudly, and in a *very* degrading voice, "Customer, well, *scoffs* she can't count." The customer got her precious $1.